Hi, welcome to this Multicloud and Power Systems webinar and demonstrations. Um, in that particular session, we're going to focus on the IBM Cloud offering for Power Systems. The multi-cloud capabilities using automation tools like Terraform or the IBM Cloud Pack for multi-cloud management. So just to give you an overview of what we're going to talk about. So first, get started with the Power Virtual Server offering. And then start playing with automation with the IBM Cloud CLI command line, and we're gonna use Terraform as well for automation, for automating the deployment and the destruction of a virtual machine running in the IBM Cloud. Um, and then we're gonna integrate this Terraform template to the Cloud Pack for multi-cloud management. Using Cloud Automation Manager and Terraform. And this demo is also going to illustrate what we can do in a multi-cloud context, provisioning VM on-premises using Power VC and OpenStack on one side, and bursting in the IBM Cloud services from a single pane of glass, Cloud Automation Manager and the Cloud Pack for multi-cloud management. And of course, in the next days, we're going to publish other videos related to OpenShift, IBM Cloud, and AIX and IBM I modernization in general. This is the overall architecture when it comes to cloud computing with Power Systems. In that particular video, we're going to focus first on the VM provisioning in a dev and test or QA use case where you want to provision quickly an application running on AIX and IBM or IBMI in the IBM Cloud, perform your functional tests, and then destroy the VM once validated. So we are on the left side. On the next video, we're going to focus on the application modernization with open source tools and maybe platform as a service and OpenShift. This is an overview of the AIX and IBMI cloud stack, and it's really not, I would say, exhaustive. So of course, lower level layers are related to the infrastructure as a service. On Power, we use Power VC. So from a single pane of glass, you can manage all infrastructure. And when you want to integrate this in a global, I would say, architecture, x86, Power, on-premises, cloud providers, you need an orchestrator. And this is what we're gonna talk about, how to integrate this Power VC and infrastructure as a service solution with higher level multi-cloud solutions like Cloud Automation Manager with Terraform and the multi-cloud manager. So this is the architecture overview. So let's say that I'm part of the DevOps team and I now want to automate all this, and I want to automate both the container-based and VM-based code delivery, for instance. So first I'm going to connect to my IBM Cloud account. So you need an IBM ID for that. And just to get started, we're going to just provision a virtual machine. We'll talk about backup, restore with cloud object storage, how to migrate, and networking in the next video. So just a quick overview of my dashboard. So we've got all the platform as a service, Cloud Foundry based, Watson services to modernize my existing applications running on AIX or IBMI. So let's browse the catalog. If I Power Systems, if I look for, yeah, I see this Power Virtual Server offering. Click on it. And then I've got the details and the pricing information, the estimator, etc. So first I need to create in a region an environment for deploying my virtual machines. And I have the choice between several regions. So two in the US, Dallas, Washington, two in Europe so far, Frankfurt 1 and 2, and for now, London. Um, so let's focus on the European regions. So if I click on one of the region, I can have the details of the offering. And so far, I'm going to just create the, I would say, the shell, I would say the environment. So I can give a name for that, for instance, region FR04, Frankfurt 4, for instance, something like that. And then I push the create button. Then I'm redirected to the resource list as usual in the IBM Cloud self-service portal. And I can have an overview on all the resources already provisioned. And if I drill down and if I put in my tag, for instance, AX IBM, I already pre-created an environment for my demonstration called Europe 1 in Frankfurt 1 and Europe 2. In that particular region, I've got a list of virtual machines already running. So in my case, I destroyed all the machines, so nothing displayed here. I can create additional things like SSH keys to connect to my virtual machines once provisioned. This is optional. You've got additional storage volumes or LUNs on the Spectrum virtualized storage connected to the power systems in the IBM Cloud. Images, this is really important. You can import your own from in an OVA format from PowerVC, for instance. So you can on premises back up your system and then transfer this backup to the cloud object storage and import it from there, right? And of course, you've got out of the box, you've got a list of let's say base image for AIX and IBM I and soon Linux and Power. So in my case, I've got two AIX versions, 7.1, 7.2, and two. This is an out of the box image. This is an image that I have imported previously from my own data center, okay, in 7.3. And of course, you've got also, you can configure a list of subnets. So basically, the subnets are used for LPAR interconnection. And it could be used to connect your PowerV virtual machines to the rest of your resources running in the IBM Cloud, for instance. x86 based or platform as a service with containers, etc. Okay, so you can define your own subnets here, subnet ranges, and then to access a virtual machine, you have the choice. You can use this internal network and you can create a virtual private network, for instance, to access it. Or you can specify at the VM creation step that this VM is going to be exposed on the internet, for instance. So let's create a first virtual machine using the graphical user interface, and then we're going to do that using command line as well. So to create a virtual machine, we can name it. So let's use IBM AIX. Let's choose AIX, for instance, AX1. I want one VM, SSH key. Let's choose my test SSH key, dedicated and cap, so shared and cap. Got the choice between the high-end E980 or the 922. So in my case, it's just for dev and test. For production, I would maybe choose this one, depending on my constraints and reliability and performance. So in my case, I only need this Power 9 S922, which is cheaper, of course. Then I can configure the number of cores. In my case, I'm going to use maybe the minimal. Let's change maybe to 4 gig. Okay. Okay. I've got the choice between several base images, as I said, and of course I have a view of the images that I've imported in the IBM Cloud environment. In my case, I'm going to focus on AIX. It's really, it's similar. 7.2 tier 1. So would I use HDD or flash storage? In my case, I don't need fast storage, I would say. And let's put it on the internet. So in that case, this VM is going to be connected to an internal network for internal um, network communication, and expose on a VLAN, expose on the internet, for instance. Okay. Then I could put filtering and all this kind of stuff. I can specify an IP address, but I will let the power behind the scenes, the Power VC in the IBM Cloud allocate an IP address. And when I'm happy with that, I've got an estimate. So in my case, the estimate, if you can see on the right side, is something like $100 for this particular VM per month. And of course, it's proportional to the duration. So if I spawn this VM for 10 minutes for functional validation, you can do the math, but it's going to cost something like 2 or 3 euros. Create. I've got a list of messages. So my VM is being created, and I've got to wait a little bit. Okay, so and if I refresh the view here, I can maybe have yeah. So created AX1. So it's not up and running yet. It's still in the building phase. While we are doing that, I can give you an overview of the IBM Cloud CLI. So you can do exactly the same. So if I connect to my CLI, so first I have to install the IBM Cloud CLI plus the Power Infrastructure as a Service plugin. I mean, it's 2 commands to run on your system. Let's log in first. For that, I'm using my own API key. You can generate in the portal. And I'm pointing to the region EUDE, which is Europe. Okay. So I'm connected to my region. I can list the instances. Very simple, right? If I want the detail on that particular instance, so I can give the ID or the name of the resource. And it's still in the build phase. Okay. At the end, I will have more details about the IP address allocated, etc. I haven't added additional storage in my case, so I can deploy whatever, the application you want. So Oracle for AX, for instance, and then you can add, of course, on the fly additional disks for the data VG, etc. In my case, it's just a simple setup with 20 gig, just necessary to boot my AX image. On IBM I, it's exactly the same. You can add additional disk in the system ASP. It's really similar. And you can, of course, add additional independent or user ASP. So it's still, and if I can give you an overview of the networks, for instance. So in my environment in Europe, so each time I run a command, my scope is the EUDE. I can change the scope to another region if I have a multi-region setup, of course, for HADR, something like that. In my case, I've got an internal network, the one I showed in the graphical user interface. But I've got also another VLAN used for the external access, I would say. So in my case, let's say that my application is internet facing, and I want one VM to be exposed to the internet. This is what I chose when I created my AIX partition. Of course, I can change that afterwards, and I can say, no, this VM won't be accessible through the internet, and I want to use the internal network only with maybe a VPN to access it. Okay, so it's really flexible. Let's have a look to the newly created virtual machine. So on the graphical user interface, after a few minutes, I can have a look if I refresh the view here and the details of all the virtual machines running on my IBM Cloud instance. So in that case, if I focus on that particular virtual machine, I see two addresses, one on the internet subnet and the other used for routing to the internet. And I've got now an internet address, external IP, that I can use to connect to my AIX partition. I can have a look to the details. I can add additional volumes. I can capture this image, etc. So I have different options, and capturing means that it's going to create an additional image that I can have, see in my images, of course. So I can capture and export. You can export it on an IBM Cloud Object Storage Service, for instance, or any SW3 compatible service. I can open a console on that particular VM, and it's the same for IBM I or AIX. Okay, and this is my my AIX partition up and running. If I want to have the same access but through using the TCP/IP interface, I can just do SSH. Here we go. If I go back to the CLI, I can have the details of this particular instance, the same view, but maybe easier to script. And this is, I've got a view on the different information, hardware allocation, etc. I can use the JSON format to parse these results. In my case, I'm gonna just say to the CLI that I want to use JSON, and let's do a quick query on that answer and response, and then I can have a direct view on the in JSON on the IP address I have to use to access it. But this is really an example of yeah, this is the external IP. I can have more information about the VM that are running, the networks I'm using, etc. Okay. I can, once I'm happy with the functional tests, and access my application running on this VM, and I can destroy it. So basically, to destroy the VM, I just have to use the instance delete x1. Done. And now, I'm not paying anymore. I'm just cleaned up my environment. Okay, so now, after a few seconds, yeah, done. Okay. If I go back to the previous view, if I go to a virtual instance and I refresh the view, okay, so it's done. So this was the first demonstration how to provision quickly. I can also export running VM and capture my own image. I can export an external image and import it in Cloud Object Storage and use it from my IBM Cloud environment. I can, for IBM I can perform a BRMS backup on premises to a Cloud Object Storage and then use this backup to install a fresh new IBM I virtual machine from there. So it's really flexible. I can share my images in Cloud Object Storage between several regions. So many functionalities that are available out of the box.